Somewhere in the middle of the Bay of Bengal, there's an island that the world has chosen to forget. It's completely cut off from modern civilization, an island with zero infrastructure, zero communication, and zero connection to the outside world. And if you ever tried to go there, you would either be arrested by the Indian government before you got close enough, or you simply would not come back at all. This island appears on every map. Satellites have photographed it from above. But every attempt by governments, journalists, and scientists to set foot on it and return with real answers has been completely blocked. Its name is North Sentinel Island, and the people living inside its jungle have been completely cut off from the rest of humanity for over 60,000 years. This is Case Zero. North Sentinel Island sits in the Andaman Archipelago, a chain of islands belonging to India, roughly the same size as the island of Manhattan. Dense, impenetrable jungle covers almost every inch of its surface. And somewhere deep inside that jungle lives a group of people known only as the Sentinelese. The exact size of their population remains a complete mystery to the outside world, with researchers estimating anywhere between 50 and 500 individuals. Their language has never been decoded. Their rituals, their beliefs, and even what they call themselves remain entirely unknown to anyone beyond that shoreline. What the world does know is this: they do not want to be found, and they have made that extraordinarily clear. Every single attempt to make contact with the Sentinelese has been met with the exact same response: arrows, spears, and absolute unwavering hostility toward anyone who dares approach. And the Indian government, rather than pushing back against this aggression, responded by making it completely illegal to even come within 3 miles of the island. Any form of contact is strictly forbidden under Indian law, which raises the obvious question: why? Is this law truly designed to protect the Sentinelese from the outside world? Or is it designed to protect us from whatever is really happening on that island? To understand just how serious this situation is, consider the incidents that have already taken place involving people who got too close. In 1906, a British officer named Maurice Vidal Portman led a formal expedition to the island. His team managed to capture 6 Sentinelese, 2 adults and 4 children, and brought them back to the Andaman capital for observation and study. The 2 adults fell ill almost immediately after arriving and died within days. The 4 children were eventually returned to the island, along with gifts intended as a gesture of goodwill. What happened after they were returned was never properly recorded. But from that point forward, the Sentinelese became more hostile toward outsiders than they had ever been before. Many historians now believe that Portman's expedition accidentally introduced foreign diseases to a population with absolutely no immune defense against them. Those 6 captured individuals may have unknowingly carried infections back to the island that wiped out a significant portion of the entire tribe. And if that theory is correct, the Sentinelese have never forgotten what the outside world did to them. Then, in 1981, a large cargo ship called the Primrose ran aground on a reef just off the island's coast during a violent storm. When the crew woke up the following morning, they looked toward the shore and found dozens of Sentinelese warriors standing on the beach, armed with weapons, actively constructing boats, and clearly preparing to launch an attack on the stranded vessel. The terrified crew barricaded themselves inside the ship and sent desperate emergency radio messages pleading for rescue. It took an entire week before a helicopter was finally able to airlift the crew to safety. The Primrose itself was never recovered and remains rusting on that reef to this very day, a permanent and haunting reminder of just how close those men came to disappearing forever. In 2006, 2 fishermen named Sundar Raj and Pandit Tiwari made the tragic mistake of anchoring their small boat too close to the island while they slept overnight. By morning, both men were dead. When a rescue helicopter arrived to investigate, the crew could see from the air that the Sentinelese had buried the 2 fishermen in shallow graves directly on the beach, with arrows visibly protruding from the sand above their bodies. The helicopter that attempted to retrieve the remains was immediately driven away by a relentless rain of arrows fired upward from the shore. The bodies of both men were never recovered. And then there is the deeply troubling case of John Allen Chau. In 2018, a 26-year-old American missionary paid local fishermen a significant sum of money to transport him as close to the island as they could manage. Chau was convinced that it was his divine mission to bring Christianity to the Sentinelese people. He had been warned repeatedly about the dangers. He had been clearly informed that approaching the island was a serious violation of Indian law. He made the decision to go anyway. On his first attempt to reach the shore, a young Sentinelese boy fired an arrow directly at him that pierced straight through the Bible he was carrying. Chow retreated to the fisherman's boat that evening and wrote about the experience in his journal. The very next morning, he went back to the island alone. He was never seen alive again. The fisherman watched helplessly from a safe distance as his body was dragged along the beach by members of the tribe. The Indian government ultimately decided that sending a recovery team would only risk additional lives and was not worth the danger. John Allen Chow remains on that island to this day. Now here is where the story becomes truly unsettling. The official explanation offered by the Indian government is straightforward. The Sentinelese are a protected, uncontacted indigenous tribe, and the law exists solely to preserve their ancient way of life from outside interference. Most people accept this explanation and move on. But a growing number of researchers and investigators are not satisfied with it. Some have pointed out that North Sentinel Island occupies a strategically significant position in the Indian Ocean, a body of water that has become increasingly important for global military and trade interests. India already maintains significant military installations across the wider Andaman Island chain, and the enforcement of the no-go zone around North Sentinel has always been carried out with a level of seriousness and commitment that seems unusual for what is supposedly just a straightforward conservation policy. Others have directed attention to the events of December 2004, when one of the most catastrophic natural disasters in recorded history struck the region. The Indian Ocean tsunami killed over 200,000 people across multiple countries in a matter of hours. When aerial survey teams flew over North Sentinel Island in the aftermath of the disaster, they discovered something that stunned observers. The Sentinelese were not only alive, they were completely and entirely unharmed. The tribe had apparently retreated to higher ground well before the wave ever reached the shore, as though they had somehow known it was coming. How is that possible? Scientists offered the explanation that the Sentinelese were likely reading subtle signs in the natural environment, changes in animal behavior, shifts in the wind, vibrations moving through the earth beneath their feet. But not everyone found that explanation fully satisfying. The island itself has never been properly or thoroughly surveyed by any outside party. What lies underground beneath that dense jungle canopy remains a complete unknown. There could be cave systems, tunnels, or ancient structures that the outside world has never seen and may never be permitted to see. The honest truth is that we know almost nothing about what is really happening on North Sentinel Island, and that perhaps is exactly the way certain people want it to remain. North Sentinel Island stands today as one of the last genuinely unknown places on the surface of the Earth. Whether the Sentinelese are simply a tribe that has chosen complete isolation from a world they have every reason to distrust, or whether there is something far deeper and more deliberate being concealed from the public, one thing remains absolutely certain. That island is holding on to its secrets, and it has no intention of giving them up anytime soon. This was Case Zero. If this story kept you awake a little longer than you planned tonight, then you're exactly where you are supposed to be. Subscribe, because every single week we open another case, and some of them are far darker than this one.